I am very honored to be here today for the Penang in World Conference to deliver my presentation titled Penang as an Entrepreneurial and Welfare State. But first, let me thank you for being here under the theme Penang in the World. I would like to congratulate the organizers for their foresight in choosing a topic that puts Penang in the context of global developments. And through this conference, it's important that Penang adapts and positions itself ahead of the game, socially, politically, and economically. The Penang state government values new ideas and well thought out public policies. And that's why we set up the Penang Institute in 2011 to invest in enriching the research environment as well as attract new talents. Now, this new building is a manifestation of that ambition, providing new facilities and a revamped working environment. This research center and the think tank is devoted to developing our home state towards pursuing excellence with ideas that works. We are pragmatic in wanting to make a difference, and only ideas that works matters. The Institute is expected to provide alternative views on policies that affect both the country and the state. The Institute has maintained its culture of trust and respect and provided sound academic and policy research. Furthermore, in line with the state's vision in making Penang an international and intelligent city, the Penang Institute has invited distinguished guests from Malaysia as well as from abroad to enlighten both Penangites as well as Malaysians. Now, whilst we talk about Penang in the world, unfortunately, Malaysia is also in the place of the world. And of course, not for the right reasons. And you know what I'm talking about. One MDB, the elephant group. The largest action or complaint taken by the US Department of Justice Cryptocurrency Asset Recovery Unit to seize and freeze $1 billion worth of assets, which is only a portion of the $3.5 billion stolen from Malaysians. Sad to say that apart from Malaysian official number one, and you know who that is, attention has also been placed on Jolo, who happens to come from Penang. They're not very proud of that. After all, it is not every day that you hit the US headlines. You have the US Attorney General coming up herself to a public press conference from Malaysia. And we are now number one in terms of cryptocurrency. I think Robert Mugabe must be thanking Malaysia. Without which, of course, you will be number one. Record in US history, $1 billion. But setting aside Jolo and his family, Tan Sri Lo and his brother Texan, who are all involved in money laundering. Setting these Penangites aside, we have good Penangites as well, such as Jimmy Choo. I see the eyes of women sparkling when I talk about Jimmy Choo. And of course, the inimitable P. Ramlee. And not to forget, of course, Dr. Wu Lenter. I am sure you have noticed the bust of Dr. Wu Lenter, a Penang boy who is still the only Malaysian to be nominated to receive a Nobel Prize for Medicine. for his contribution in fighting the plague in China. And I think we are rightfully proud of Dr. Ulian's immense contribution. Now, in the light of these towering events, my government is focused on creating the right environment so that more talented Penang people can thrive in today's world. Unfortunately, again, Penang suffers from a significant brain drain, the emigration of talents from Malaysia to other countries. Whilst the World Bank has surveyed the Malaysian diaspora for their reasons for emigrating from Malaysia, what is more significant is that the policy adopted, such as the Returning Express program, is not economically attractive enough. And furthermore, it discriminates against local talents, as local talents will be enjoying less tax benefits compared to these returning talents. And this is the conclusion of one of the studies in Penang Institute. Now, whilst my government has a proven track record in fiscal surpluses annually, we are unable to set tax policies. Therefore, Penang's success since 2008 has been achieved solely through providing a clean, accountable and transparent government, what we describe as CAT governance. And this is of course not easily achieved, as Malaysia is a highly centralized country. What we have seen is that state governments' main jurisdictions are limited to land, local government matters and religious affairs. Matters normally governed or co-governed by the states, such as education, transportation, healthcare and policing, are all in the hands of the federal government and not under state control. And such excessive concentration of power at the center has denied Penang and other states in Malaysia much of the governance benefit from diversity and competition, giving little room for local innovation, initiatives and accountability. Such unaccountability, of course, has led to many problems, amongst them the one MBB saga. Closely related to this is the issue of right to govern. In the last general elections, despite getting only 48% of the popular vote, the Barisan Nasional retained power, and the opposition, despite getting close to 52% of the popular vote, was shuttered out of power. Our electoral system is not representative of the one person, one vote principle. Penang Institute, to Dr. Wong Chin Hua, has been studying closely constituency determination and electoral reform. Many of you will know that they have been working closely with PERSE in both researching and training citizens to reduce malapportionment and gerrymandering of constituencies. My government has also championed steadfastly on the importance of tolerance in our society. In our multi-ethnic and multi-religious society, this is crucial. The Penang Institute recognizes that the debates on institutional and policy reforms will not move much unless the elephant in the room, ethno-religious politics, is addressed. I understand that there is a multidisciplinary study on the phenomenon of Malay anxiety in the larger context of how plural society evolves is accepted in Malaysia, and it's pertinent to problematize the compatibility of multiculturalism, citizenship, and economic disparity. And this is what PI is looking at. When one looks at Islam, there are strong reasons for debating against the introduction of hudud in Malaysia. I'm glad that the Penang Institute has taken the debate on whether Makasi Sharia, the higher purposes of Sharia, which are essentially about justice and public interest, should have been the focus. This is because Maqasid Sharia are both universal and not formalistic. They can be accepted by all. Last November, together with the G25 NGO grouping, Penang Institute organized a conference on Maqasid Sharia in constitutional democracy. Of course, gathering good response from civil society. Despite strong economic growth, Penang under our leadership has significantly reduced income inequality. Between 1981 and 2011, inequality has grown in countries like China from 0.291 in 1981 to 0.421 in 2010. Hong Kong from 0.45 in 1981 to 0.54 in 2011. However, in Penang, our income inequality has been reduced from 0.42 in 2009 to 0.364 in 2014, an improvement of 13% over 5 years. This is something that I believe government should do, generate inclusive growth. One of the policy tools of inclusive growth is our equitable economic agenda. I'm using empirical evidence from Latin America. Penang Institute proposed that low-income parents monitor the education and health of their children to qualify for our state cash transfers, unconditional cash transfers. Penang Institute updated the study on the marginalization of the Indian community in Malaysia, which was carried out in 1998. And of course, this was our second program under Professor P. Ramasamy, the Deputy Chief Minister of Penang. And thirdly, Penang Institute is helping the Penang Youth Development Corporation on developing a comprehensive policy for youth development to ensure the empowerment of youth as a force that will motivate the social economic advancement and political growth of Penang. Penang is of course the most desirable and livable city in Malaysia, but we are benchmarking Penang not just against other cities in Malaysia and the region, but also throughout the world. What we need is to gain better understanding on ways which promote sustainable urban development and smart city growth. This can be achieved by focusing on how the state can reform its approach to planning, land use, urban management and enforcement to be clean, green, safe and healthy. Georgetown is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and many people in Penang is proud of it. Creative and innovative arts-based projects allow the community at large to engage in a conversation about how we want the spaces in our city to be developed, highlighting our current addiction to the car, which prevents more people-friendly projects from developing. For instance, next month the city will be full of yellow chairs, designed to spark discussion about our public spaces. And next month, again, we'll be celebrating Parking Day, where the community will transform 60 parking spaces into temporary green parks. But we're not only talking about highlighting the need for more parking spaces or to reduce our addiction to motor vehicles. We have launched a 37 billion ringgit Penang Transport Master Plan to transform Penang's transport infrastructure and hopefully resolve traffic congestion over the next few decades. To enable an intelligent system in place, it is important that we research the factors which influence the travel behavior of the Penang public in order to support improvements in bus-based public transport, pedestrian and cycling infrastructure, while providing inputs in the planning for future public transport infrastructure such as light rail and dedicated bus lanes, as well as dedicated bicycle lanes. Towards this, Penang Institute has evaluated the central area transit and has developed detailed recommendations for evolving the service into a city centre park and ride to relieve traffic congestion in Georgetown. Of course, our problem with traffic congestion is the unintended consequences of our success. Penang today is an important node in the global supply chain of many electronics and medical devices companies. We contribute a significant portion of Malaysia's balance of trade, up to 35% of Malaysia's imports and exports. Looking forward, after the signing of EPPA, Penang, being an open economy, can look forward to greater integration with the global economy. For businesses are winners, but some segments will lose out. So operating globally, I hope Penang businesses will also be part of today's conference to see how we can help the losers to become winners. In short, Penang is focused on making Penang a model of good governance and twin leadership to develop Penang into an entrepreneurial and welfare state. This contrasts with the present governance model of chronic capitalism and corruption. Despite lacking natural resources and bereft of federal government funding, Penang has managed to prosper by relying on good and clean governance, building human talent, and of course, public infrastructure, relying on private sector and civil society in a framework of public-private partnership. With the state government providing either the seed money or funding the entire project or initiative, we invite the private sector to invest either in funds or expertise on sustainable development. And this is what being an entrepreneurial state is all about, where everyone is a stakeholder, not just the government, not just the private sector, not just the labor unions, but also civil society as well as the public. A public-private partnership, driving economic growth together. Now, despite being publicly funded, many of these projects and initiatives are run by the private sector or civil society, with minimal or no interference from the state government. For instance, the 20 million ringgit Penang Science Cafe, a project to give free classes to kids in applied science and robotics. The 28 million ringgit Tech Dome of Penang to rekindle interest in science and technology as a science learning and discovery center. The 6 million ringgit German dual vocational training scheme, offering free 42-month advanced diploma courses where students learn on the job and work at factories that is recognized even in Germany. And the tuition fees are paid by the state government, and they get a monthly stipend of 1,000 ringgit for working in the factories. In other words, they are paid to study. The new 3 million ringgit Penang Digital Library, probably the first digital library in Malaysia. The building for the establishment of a 1 billion ringgit fish farming on the sea industry out of practically nothing at all in 2008. And even the annual Georgetown Festival showcases the success of Penang's entrepreneurial state model. And perhaps what I would like to highlight is the fish industry. Penang is famous for our electronic industry. But I think many does not realize that we built a fish farming industry on the sea out of nothing at all. When I say out of nothing at all, the state government did not put in a single cent. What we did was to reinvent government. Instead of the rentier system, where in the past they will give one or two cooperatives or individuals 10,000 hectares of sea land, which will then sublet or parcel out to the public, earning of course and collecting rents from the public. The present state government has changed that model to only give it to owner-operated fish farms. And we have limited the size to 8,000 square meters. We have fixed the yearly rental to 3,600 ringgit per year, and the state government agency giving approval must do so within a span of 3 months. They will get an answer. And lo and behold, in a short space of 8 years, in 2008 we had 0 fish farms on the sea. But because everything is transparent, everything is accounted for, many private operators come over to set up their fish farms. We have now over 300 fish farms. And they are exporting most of their fishes to the markets and the dinner tables in Hong Kong and China. It is a 1 billion ringgit industry, the biggest now in Malaysia. And we did not put in a single cent. In fact, we got some money in terms of rental. And I think this shows that if we can reinvent government by being transparent, if we can set up rules that are accountable, and we allow private enterprise to take over, this model of an entrepreneurial state can drive and create a new industry out of nothing at all. Now, apart from being an entrepreneurial state, of course, we'll continue our effort to transform Penang into an international and intelligent city that is a location of choice for investors, a destination of choice for tourists, and a habitat of choice for those who desire sustainable living. Penang recorded 8.2 billion ringgit in investments in 2014, a 110% increase compared to 2013. For the 8-year period from 2008 to 2015. Now, why do I say 2008 as a cut-off point? Because that is the year we took power. So for the 8-year period between 2008 to 2015, we recorded an investment of 55 billion ringgit, which compared to the previous 8 years, from 2000 to 2007, is an increase of 90%. Previous 8 years, 29 billion. 2008 to 2015, 55 billion. But we are not just an entrepreneurial state, we are also a welfare state. We do not forget about the poor and disadvantaged. Since 2008, more than 400 million ringgit have been paid out to schools, senior citizens, newborn babies, single mothers, the disabled, housewives, taxi drivers, fishermen, transport riders, primary, secondary, and university students. Up to 250,000 Penangites. 250,000 Penangites out of a population of 1.6 billion has received cash contributions from the state government. We will devote 12% of our budget annually in cash aid. And of course, we guarantee a minimum monthly household income of 790 ringgit for every household. So if a household earns 600 ringgit a month, the state government will top up the difference. We will pay out 190 ringgit every month. And this is probably why our Penang Gini coefficient has been able to reduce to 0.364, an improvement of 13% over 5 years. We have also undertaken a 500 million ringgit public and affordable housing program, building 22,512 units. Now this entrepreneurial and welfare state is only possible because we record annual budget surpluses through clean administration. We have increased our reserves from 850 million ringgit in 2007 to 1.6 billion ringgit in 2015. I think most important of all, we have also reduced our debt by 90%. We are now the lowest debt in the country. Of all the 13 states, a total of 16.8 billion ringgit is owed. The number one debt owing state is Pahang, 2.9 billion, followed by Sabah, 2.6 billion. Number 3, Sarawak, 2.5 billion. Kedah, 2.3 billion. Kelantan, 1.3 billion. And the least or the smallest debt owing state is of course Penang, 69 million ringgit. We can of course pay immediately. I think we leave some debt there, so at least when we ask money from the federal government, they cannot turn us away. They cannot say that we don't owe any money, so we don't need money. And our unemployment rate is 1.5%. We have one of the lowest, if not the lowest, unemployment rate in the country of 1.5%, which means that we have a worker shortage. So if any one of our friends wants to find a job in Penang, you are most welcome. I don't know whether any vacancies available in Penang City. Ladies and gentlemen, the world has progressed significantly in the past few years. And we hope that this conference will tap on the views of local and international thinkers on key international issues and challenges that are relevant to Penang, Malaysia, and the region. The topics lined up are significant not only because of the contents, but because of the distinguished speakers themselves. There are many questions that will be discussed, and perhaps you will not be able to find some of the answers. I'm sure it's going to be fascinating and informative 2 days. We are fortunate that the Penang Institute was once led by a world-renowned economist, Professor Dr. Wu Tai. And of course now it is led by our Cambridge University, Professor Dr. Lim Kim Hua. And we hope that with the opening of this new building, that we can succeed in establishing Penang Institute as one, if not the top think tank in Malaysia. Thank you again to the many people at Penang Institute who have put this conference together, and thank you for coming here.
What is there for Penang in years to come if our economy is so bad? Because we must create jobs, not create development. What is there? What is there? What do you think? How do you want to create jobs for Penang? Because the basic behavior complex is food, water, and shelter. If the shelter water cannot be built, what's the use of building big monuments? in the sky. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim Wan. Basically, it's a question on job creation for the future of Penang. One more question, perhaps. If there are none, I will hand over the time to Chief Minister.
Thank you.
I'm Elizabeth Su, and my question is: what are the top 3 challenges the Prime Minister faces to establish Penang, globally as a global presence, apart from federal management?
Thank you. When you talk about shelter, of course, food, these are all basic needs. I mentioned just now that we have one of the lowest unemployment rates, 1.5%. I think our challenge is not so much offering jobs. I think, as I said, there's a shortage of workers. Our problem is to provide high-income jobs. I think that is the challenge. We have a worker shortage. Our industries are looking for people, and that's why I think we have to rely on foreign workers. I think one of the big challenges is create sufficient high-income jobs. I think that is the challenge. And then when you talk about housing, again, the state government has decided to get involved in building affordable and public housing. I think that should be able to meet the demand of the local population here. The question by Elizabeth, the 3 big challenges. Number 1, of course, build public infrastructure. You've got to get that public infrastructure going. Number 2 is, of course, building human talent. You've got to get enough talented people around so that industries will come in. And then I think the third ultimate challenge is this, is how to build a cohesive, inclusive society that celebrates diversity as well as hard work. I think that is something that cannot be done overnight. It is, for instance, I'd just like to give an example of our program to be green, our no plastic bags program. It's very difficult to change the mindset of the older folks. You start from younger people, and then it takes time. So when you talk about establishing a society that is cohesive, inclusive, that celebrates diversity and hard work, I think you must start from young. There's no such thing as a free lunch. So unless you build a resilient and self-reliant individual and society, I think you'll be in trouble. So you have to have a society that's resilient, that is able to withstand setbacks, and of course, then you can innovate. I think that's where everything fits in: human talent, infrastructure, and then mindset. Thank you.